Welcome. Welcome aboard. Okay, I think we're live. All right, you are now part of a live broadcast from Broadkill Writers Resort right here on Delaware Bay, Delaware, USA, brought to you in partnership with All Access Con. And maybe you joined us here today because of that video that's been going around on social media about how 11 books in print were written here at our resort for writers. Maybe you're interested in the All Access Con experience that has been publicized recently because of our Indiegogo campaign. Or maybe you just came to heckle me in the chat box over here on the side during this presentation. And hey, I guess that's all right. We all need goals. Whatever the reason. First, let me give you a brief explanation of how to navigate our virtual event. That begins with using the links over to your left. For the main presentation, well, I guess you already found it. You are here with us at the main stage. Thank you for joining us again. Just remember, if you want to navigate back here at any point, if you wander away, just hit the stage button to connect with other attendees. Click on networking. Now, this is where you have the chance to enter a networking session of about 30 seconds minimum to 3 minutes maximum in length with another attendee. It's sort of a face-to-face interaction. And if you decide that you would like to save each other's information, the same as exchanging business cards at a real live in-person event, just hit connect. And now their info will be saved for you in your Hopin account. You can access it anytime later. But please do remember that the use of your camera will be required. If you deny access to the camera, I guess the system will bump you out of the networking space. So just keep that in mind. Now, please do interact, have fun. Remember, this is a public event with attendees focused on career development. Thanks for joining us. Again, one other thing to be aware of, I'm on a 20-second delay. So while I can see what comes up in the chat right away, you won't see my response for about 20 seconds. And why don't I just go over to the chat here and see if anybody is chatting. If you are seeing the presentation and navigating things okay, let me know. If you have any problems, let me know in the chat. I'll either address it, or we do have Jennifer here on the team. She might jump into the chat and provide some assistance to you as well. All right, so cool. Having gotten that out of the way, let me describe our format here today. Now, our slated time is from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That just gives us a lot of flexibility for covering our content today, question and answers, anything that might come up. So we'll see how it goes. We have at least probably a good solid 2 hours here for you. And I know that is a lot of time in the presentation. There will be a video in the middle if you need to take a break, go stretch your legs, have something to eat, toss the ball to your dog, whatever you want to do. But we do have a lot of content for you. We want to deliver a lot of value. So there will be a lot of ground to cover. We'll be moving quickly. So if you have any questions or want clarification, because we're moving fast, we will back up and just let us know. We'll go back and make sure everything is crystal clear. So I think I mentioned already the team here today is myself, John Edward Lawson, author, editor, co-founder of Raw Dog Screaming Press, founder of Broadkill Writers Resort, and one of the people at the center of the All Access Con campaign. Also on the team is Jennifer Barnes, my co-conspirator, co-founder of Raw Dog Screaming Press and the Broadkill Writers Resort. So, about the Broadkill Writers Resort and why we are here this weekend. And maybe we should talk about that just a little. As you might know, November is National Novel Writing Month, also referred to as NaNoWriMo, just to make it easier to type online and what have you. So yeah, NaNoWriMo is upon us. So the theme for our weekend retreat this November, which we're in the middle of, is NaNoWriMo and meeting your NaNoWriMo goals, which can be tough for a lot of people. Again, for those who don't know, NaNoWriMo is an event where you write a novel in a month. For the average person, that is a pretty tall order, right? I think the definition for winning NaNoWriMo is writing 50,000 words from scratch, going into a project cold, nothing written on it previously, starting at the beginning of November and finishing 50,000 words by the end of November. And maybe that doesn't sound like a lot. It's quite enough for a lot of people to come up with something new on the go and write, I guess that's 12,500 words per week, something like that. So, especially with the holidays coming up at the end of the month, always looming, end of November, some major holidays, right? So, what we'll be covering are productivity techniques and tools that we recommend here at the Broadkill Writers Resort. And one of the first things that we talk about is writing rituals, or as they call it in the information space, mindset, abundance mentality, growth mindset. Basically just establishing patterns in your life to make it easier to write, to be creative. For example, maybe some of you who have met me previously notice I'm looking a little different these days. I mean, aside from, I'm getting older and losing hair and started having facial hair for the first time in my life, within the last few years. These duds I've got going, If you dig the threads, let me know. But everywhere I go now, people ask me, John, what is up with the suit and tie look? What are you doing? And I don't know about you, for your job, what do you wear? Do you have a uniform? Do you wear a suit? I've worked retail jobs, service industry jobs where I had to wear a uniform in the past. Thankfully in the distant past, but writing from home, one of the benefits working from home is you can wear whatever you want at any point in time. But at the same time, I didn't realize this, of course, it can also help shape just the sheer psychology behind what you're doing. I attended an event earlier this year. I've been writing for 20 years now. And for the first time I attended wearing, suits and ties and things. And I am not that kind of person. I'm a ratty old band t-shirt, holes in it kind of guy. But, there's a lot of cool guys taking up space in the scene. They've already got that occupied. But I knew I was going to be winning an award or being presented with an award at this event. And so I figured I'd be there representing the company and the other authors attached to our publishing company. And so I wanted to keep things cool. And it was one of the best experiences in my life. I think it had nothing to do with the clothes, but every time I put this on, I feel like, boom, I just feel that energy come back. I'm ready to go, get things done, have meetings, take care of business. I feel creative and energetic. It's a simple, goofy thing, but it works for me. And I know other people have things that they need to do with their attire in order to feel comfortable to write. In fact, there was an author who had to write standing up at a podium to compose while naked, I think. And I don't want to misname the writer if I'm not remembering who it is correctly. But if you know who it is, put it in the chat box. Don't worry, they're long gone. This is back in like the 30s and 40s and what have you. All right, so they're not going to be embarrassed by these revelations. But there are all kinds of rituals you can establish for yourself. Other examples might be always composing new words in a certain chair, a certain space in your home. For instance, some people like this room of the Writer's Retreat. This is our all seasons room that has light coming in from 3 of the 4 sides, all glass all around you, surrounded by books. And then once you've composed in that area, you never do your editing there because you're in another mindset altogether for doing your editing. You do that in another room. You do that in another chair. You do that at the coffee house, wherever it is that you have this writing ritual. Another ritual that people have is writing early in the morning before the sun comes up, writing late at night when the rest of the family has gone to bed and the house is nice and quiet. Whatever it is, make it a habit for yourself so that you are writing. The writing habit is in and of itself more of an important goal than specific word counts, page counts, these things, which you do have as good metrics for what kind of productivity you're having overall. But if you don't have the writing habit and it's just kind of sporadic and happening at random, you're not going to get very far with your goals, especially in a high productivity month like NaNoWriMo, where you're probably also committed to some other long-term projects, other real-life stuff, other things that are happening, promotional opportunities that come your way in the middle of the month, all sorts of other things. So just bear in mind, always make writing itself the habit. So another thing to be mindful of is to beware editing as you're writing. And this is a big trap for me. I had, unfortunately, like a lot of people who go through this, some success early on, and then you feel like you have something that you need to live up to right away. And then as you move on with your career, you get more and more paralyzed with putting words down on the page. It has to be perfect, right from the bat. So that can be tough, right? So, like I said, have a place where you write, have another place where you edit, because you're in a different headspace then. You want to not be interrupting that creative flow. So that's another thing that we always advise people to do. Now, here's something that we also talk about. And let me put this question to you. Have you ever read a TV guide, either the paper one in the store, one of those guides on screen when you're scrolling through your cable guide? You've probably read one, right? Okay, think about that grid. If it's online or on cable, you press on like the towel that you're interested in, and boom, up comes a one-sentence description that encapsulates the whole entire movie or TV show, right? How does that work? Well, in Hollywood, that's called a log line. And typically, you're talking about 25 words, at max 50 words, but usually more like less than 30 in the 25 word range for a whole entire story. So one thing I tell people when you're starting off, do a log line. That way you know in no uncertain terms exactly what's going to happen in the most simple way. You have this reference. Boom, this is going to happen. And also, it can feel really, really overwhelming knowing you have a whole entire short story, a whole entire chapter, a whole entire book ahead of you, in the certain time frame. But you know that you can write a sentence. We've all done it before. You've probably written a sentence at some point today, maybe composing an email, maybe putting together a grocery list. You've probably written dozens of log lines worth of words today, at the very least, just going about your own casual business, putting in website addresses and what have you. You know you can write a sentence. So take that and flip it. What does it look like on the other side when you're approaching writing a certain scene in a chapter, or the entire chapter itself, or maybe a series of chapters that make part one of the book? Log lines, every step of the way. You can always break it down to a single simple sentence. And if you can do that, then it doesn't matter if you are an outliner or if you are what they call a pantser, somebody who writes by the seat of their pants. You will always be able to have this wide overview of things that allows you to move forward, chunking things down by having the confidence of knowing the larger picture. In other words, going micro by going macro. So it's an easy, weird trick to writing that we've developed over the years that we always advise people to use if they want to move quickly. Just stringing together a whole bunch of log lines could be your outline if you're somebody who really hates outlining. And also that allows for a lot of flexibility when you sit down to write. It's still fresh and new because all you know is that one sort of log line that's guiding the scene or the interaction or whatever it is that's happening. And you're filling in the details, and it keeps it fresh and exciting, right? So that's one technique you can use. And one side bonus is, hey, now you have a log line to pitch to agents and to producers. So boom, it's a twofer. All right. So now let's talk about productivity tools, unless anybody has any questions about what we've been covering thus far for productivity techniques. Okay. All right. Productivity tools. So going hand in hand with what we were just talking about, there's a certain set of tools that I always recommend to people. I use them myself. I don't recommend things that I don't use or don't have some familiarity with. All right. But before we dive into that, let me ask you, where are you on your writing journey? You consider that for a moment. Let's assume here that the answer is not the end. All right. I hope it's not the end for you. If you believe that, well, what we're going to do here is turn that around for you real quick. Okay. But okay. So you're at some particular point on your path as a writer, okay, or as an author. And ask yourself, where do you want to go next? Now, as somebody myself with all sorts of clinical attention problems, I've learned that I need to be very strategic with my approach to getting where I want to go, to getting things done. I need a set of tools that will help me implement each specific strategy to getting where I want to go. And it's not because I can't work, but you know, as you get older, I think you become more connected to people, more connected to things and organizations, more responsibilities at your jobs or in your family. You get more accomplishments and opportunities. Your life gets really cluttered up. And the valuable time you have to dedicate to concentrated effort to writing just gets rapidly consumed by all these other things. So how do you get ahead and make progress on projects when you have all these family commitments, publicity work or volunteer work, when you're constantly traveling for work and events, or when you have some other barrier that complicates the expected path that people are perceived as taking to become authors and to get things done. Well, specifically for the getting things done aspect, I rely on a few free apps. These are always popular when I talk with people about them at writers' conferences or running workshops. The first and foremost is a really easy one that figures into the writing habit aspect of things. And it's really applicable to all work habits, not just writing. Basically, researchers have found that doing things in half-hour chunks keeps your brain fresh, keeps your concentration levels at their peak for the longest amount of time possible. You work 25 minutes and take a 5-minute break. It's called the Pomodoro technique. And there are some pretty good books on this subject. I use a Pomodoro timer app on my phone called Focus Keeper. It's tomato red, so easy to find. Focus Keeper is also easy and intuitive to use, and it'll keep track of how many sessions you worked on and what have you. And it's easy to have anywhere with me I go, whether I'm working from home, working on the train, in a coffee shop, whatever. And basically the idea is you do these 25-minute sessions for, I think, about 4 hours, and then you take a whole half-hour break, and then you can start again. Actually, no, I got that wrong. It's 4 sessions, and then you take the half-hour break, I think. Well, hey, check it out. As I said, read the books. Download the app. It'll tell you all about it. Focus Keeper, all right? The other thing, and I've been through a lot of organizers, paper organizers, organizers that you pin up on the wall, organizers that are online. The one I am using recently that is really helping me out and is completely adaptable to whatever style of work and tracking information that you prefer, something called the Amazing Marvin. It's a cloud app, it's online. Just search for it in your whatever search engine you prefer. The Amazing Marvin is a pretty fun and friendly app for just tracking what needs to be done and is completely customizable. I very strongly recommend it. I've only been using it for about a month and a half now, and I find that I am no longer relying on all the sticky notes and the pad of paper and the other app I had. You know, there were too many things going on all over the place because I was able to track information in different ways in different places. You can do it all there in the Amazing Marvin, okay? Now, I got access to that for free. I think it is free for everyone right now. So check it out. Let me know if that is not true, because I would like to know whether I can tell people that or not. The last thing is something called Pacemaker that was developed specifically for writers, and not just any one kind of writer. But that's what makes this tool great. It is awesome if you are working on papers in college, if you're a blogger, if you are a journalist, if you are a poetry writer, fiction author, whatever it is you're doing, any type of project that you're working on can be tracked in this program. You can set it up for all kinds of different word per day goals, and this is where it is wonderful for NaNoWriMo, but then also adaptable to all sorts of schedules throughout the rest of the year. I think they have moved to a paid model recently, so you can only have 2 writing projects planned for free at a time. Of course, you can delete a project and add another one And as long as you're not over your 2 projects at a time limit, I think it's free. But this is something I've been using for years. It has tons of data. If you're a person who relies on data and metrics to optimize performance, it's beautiful. Good, go for it. If you don't want that stuff, if you just want the pure, this is what I need to do today, it's perfect for that too. And again, fully customizable. So look for Pacemaker, look for the Amazing Marvin, and those are both online apps. Focus Keeper on your phone. Now, writing tools. Okay, so a little while ago, I was asking you where you are currently with your writing or being an author, and where you would want to be next on your path as a writer, right? Think about that again. Well, I'm somebody who's published 16 books with hundreds of articles and poems and short stories published worldwide in multiple languages. Been nominated for awards 9 times. That's where I'm at currently. Is that something you'd like to be able to say to people? Is that where you want to be? If so, I want to help make it easier for you than it was for me to get there. Like I said, I've been a writer for 20 years. It shouldn't take you that long to get where I am. I made a lot of mistakes along the way and wasted a lot of time. So I feel like if I had had these writing tools all along, I would have done a lot better. And part of that is just my background as an individual. As a child, I had some weird issues with my hands where I couldn't really write, at least not like other people. Not until I was well into 4th, 5th grade, I guess, being like around age 10. Even then, it was really bad. It was a struggle. It took forever. And to this day, I'm still a really slow and difficult writer. My letters very often turn out looking completely differently from day to day. So I have a lot of problems with that. And if you had ever told me as a kid that one day I would be a writer, well, I don't even know what I would have said to that or what my family would have said, because, I mean, although they were in love with books, both my mother and my father, I mean, my father was head of the library binding section for the Smithsonian Institution, right? So books were very important to him. He was the guy who was taking care of all these old books. And so there was a lot of that instilled in the family atmosphere, that books were important, writing was important. And I just couldn't do it, right? I mean, I could read, no problem. Write, no. Drag and dictate. Maybe you've heard of it. I was made hip to drag and dictate by another author who I know and have worked with in the past, Maria, a product called Drag and Dictate, to accurately dictate her novel. And apparently it went really well for her. She had a great experience. And I was like, oh, hey, I better try that. And you know what? It works. It's great, and it learns and adapts to how you speak over time. So it becomes more and more accurate, unlike some other dictation software. It does cost money. It is, for a lot of us out here as working authors, kind of expensive. You can get the headset microphone that costs a bunch more. I don't recommend it. I found it didn't really make that much of a difference compared to just positioning your computer in a good spot where you can be picked up by the microphone easily. No problem. If you cannot afford drag and dictate, Something else that I highly recommend is Google's free dictation platform. And I can't remember what it's called. Is it Google Speech or something? I can't remember. It's in a lot of the schools right now. I only know about it because my son has been using it. And he's somebody who's also very writing averse. But he can write like a champ with dictation. Why is that? Why does that work? Well, the sheer physicality of talking versus the physicality of writing, the mechanics don't work out in favor of your hand. You can speak about 3 times as many words per minute as you can write. So, some of us speak more quickly than others, so no guarantees on the words per minute. I mean, just the average person can speak that many words per minute. Some of us are doing much more than that. So some writers are super productive with these tools. Now, I have limited time per day because I'm involved in so many different things. But even I am able to get down 5,000, even up to 8,000 words a day. Other people are doing 10,000, 15,000 words per day. So that is definitely something I recommend you look into if you have not already. And if you're just joining us, or if you're worried about forgetting any of the stuff I'm talking about, one thing I should mention is there will be a downloadable resource that will be emailed to you along with a link for the replay of this session a bit later. That will include all these productivity techniques, productivity tools, all described with links for easy access for you after this is all said and done, okay? So later after the event, you'll be receiving all this information. No problem. All right. I also recommend, okay, I was a Grammarly hater, all right? Not because I tried it, but because as a professional writer and editor, I was like, why, man, you know what? Give me a break. What is this like automated AI editing about? Nobody needs that, right? Well, it turns out it's kind of a great tool. I've started using it recently. And, you know, it does all sorts of things. First of all, it's great for online communication. If your business is communication, you want to ensure that your social media posts, that your emails, that your private messages are as error-free as possible, because that can be embarrassing for a writer or editor to have these imperfect tweets out there, or make some really bad blunders in a pitch to somebody important or to anyone at all through email. So it turns out Grammarly is all right, free version or the paid version. And one thing it does for you is it will email you reports weekly with breakdowns of how many words it checked for you, what was your writing output on social media, in your emails, or that you loaded into the program from your whatever text program you're working with, whether it's a Word or something else. So I don't use it for editing my manuscripts. It's just purely an online experience for me. But it has done wonders for my productivity online. I'm getting through online communications and emails much more quickly now, and much more worry-free. I've also found with these reports breaking it all down for me that my writing output is awesome if you count everything I'm doing online. My first week of using it, 16,000 words, and that was barely online. Second week using it, it said I had done 25,000 words online. And again, this is not counting poetry, articles, books I'm writing, just online word count. So I'm feeling kind of like a champ now in terms of my productivity. But also, it'll break down your word usage versus the general population, how many unique words you're using, how many errors, You're having all this other data that you can reference from week to week. So that's another tool I recommend. And admittedly, an unexpected one. I thought I'd try it so that I could maybe blast it. But as it turns out, I'm trying it and loving it. So there's that. For my writing, I've used something called Storyist. It's on Mac. I don't know if it's also available on Windows. I think it is. And I do not believe there is an app for mobile devices for Storyist, although there might be now because they just came out with a new version. But it is built as a platform for doing screenplays, for doing manuscripts, all sorts of writing that you want to do. It tracks your word, time spent per project, all these other things. It's great. So that is Storyist. That is the word processing program that I recommend anyway. And of course, it has the note boards for keeping track of everything for all of your scenes and what have you. All these things have become pretty standard, I guess, but all under one roof. So the last thing that I strongly recommend for working writers, and also even for academics, is something called Writer's Work. It is an online app that not only you can compose in and you can track projects in, but it is also a marketplace for finding places to submit by various criteria that you can put in, payment per word, type of submission, query or pitch, will track your time per project and all these other metrics. It's also a great place for being connected with writing jobs. It's all under one roof. Writing composition, a profile where people can see and hire you, submission guidelines that are searchable for all types of magazines, online publications, academic journals, industry-specific magazines and journals. Also, job marketplace with all kinds of writing jobs and editing jobs available for permanent employment, either online or in specific cities around the world. So Writer's Work. Again, this will all be included in the download that I'll be sending out to all attendees here and when you're registered. Now, metrics are great, right? Being able to point to numbers and say conclusively that this work equaled these results, right? Like what we do with word counts. But what if you were able to count the impact of your work, of your contributions to society? What if there was an equivalent to a word count, but for impact? Well, there kind of is. I'll tell you about that in a second. But first, let me tell you about my experience on the wrong end of capitalism. When I was growing up, my family was poor. We were food insecure all the time. I didn't know where the next meal was coming from a lot of times, hungry all the time. And that made a huge impact on me growing up. I was always sick. And to this day, if there's ever any kind of money issues, I get very tense and anxiety ridden, flashing back to those times when there was just nothing to eat. And so I will go crazy trying to figure out how to make money, right? So what do you think would happen if we turn all that on its head? Because, I mean, I grew up sort of shunning money and feeling like I didn't need it to get by. You know, I survived all that. Who needs money, right? I was not into capitalism. Still, I'm not very much into capitalism despite being involved in all these businesses, right? And another thing was, growing up under those circumstances, I was never very sure or confident about receiving money, being worth the money that people would give me for jobs. And I don't believe that money equals personal worth. I'm not suggesting that you should either. Likewise, I don't believe that your work equals your value. But unfortunately, that belief is prevalent with a lot of writers that their writing is what they're worth, or what makes them have some value as a person. What I am saying, though, is that you can use the amount of money you're receiving for your work as a gauge for how much service your work is to the community at large. How much your writing has helped people learn something new, or to understand something about themselves, or maybe to decompress after a day at the hospital of watching somebody they care about suffer. Writing does all sorts of things for people, and it has value. Even if you don't feel that your writing has value and you don't want to contaminate your art, the amount of time you're spending physically doing these things also has value. So never be afraid to ask for money or to leverage your platform to recruit your audience into being your representatives. And notice I didn't say being your salespeople, right? Your representatives in the community. Just sort of spread word about what you're doing. More importantly, don't feel strange or undeserving receiving the resources that will keep you in a position to contribute to the world. It's simple. Is that something you want to do? To share what you have inside you with the rest of the world, or some part of the world? Well, if that's the case, then these are the Broadkill Writers Resort recommended tools for reaching your audience, whether they know that they're your audience yet or not. Because a lot of times your audience is out there waiting for you, saying, I wish I could read this kind of thing. Where's the author doing that? They just don't know about you. These things will help you reach them with the least amount of effort to increase your productivity, okay? In terms of mailing lists, of course, that gets hammered into our heads as authors every day. You need to have a mailing list, right? It's kind of daunting, and some of them have questionable delivery rates, these services out there. I recommend MailerLite. Okay, that's Mailer, L-I-T-E. It's a great service that recently seems to measure with the highest deliverability rate out of all of the services out there, even some of the giants like MailChimp. It has full automation for email sequences to take a lot of the grunt work out of maintaining a mailing list. It also has tons of integrations that are designed specifically for authors building mailing lists, tools for delivering free ebooks or bonus ebook content integrated directly into your email system. So if you sign up for MailerLite, or just go to their website, check out the integrations tab, and you'll find all kinds of great things there. One of which is something called Story Origin, which is currently free. I think maybe they're thinking about making it not free in the future, but right now it is free, just like MailerLite. MailerLite is free until you reach a certain number of subscribers, I think 1,000. Back to Story Origin. Story Origin is a multi-service tool that is great for building your audience by swapping your email lists, connecting you with authors who will cross-promote you to their email list. Great for delivering ebook content that could be locked just for people to receive on your email list. Providing review copies, electronic review copies to bloggers and other interested parties, and all sorts of other features. I recommend them very strongly. eReleases.com is another service I recommend. It can be expensive. I'll tell you, this is how we got onto the, Yahoo Finance and Reuters and NBC, CBS, Fox, ABC, all these other major outlets was through eReleases.com. And part of that was having a well-written release. Part of that was having information that was timely and relevant. We had big things happening. But we have used other press release services before online and got like no results worth mentioning. eReleases is different. They will get you the goods. There is a price barrier, for somebody who's just a self-published author. Although, to be honest, it's actually way cheaper than getting the one review at Kirkus that they charge for. And you get a lot more mileage, I think, of being able to say that you got into all these different places. And especially with Kirkus, we had an author who used a paid Kirkus review, and it was trash. They didn't give us anything that we could use. And we sort of told the author, hey, maybe that's not a good idea to do that. But yeah, that can really blow up in your face. And then you're stuck with, you're out of hundreds of dollars and have a review that you can't use. So I recommend eReleases if you're going that route for publicity. All right. One final thing, and it may not be what you would expect. I recommend the Sales Growth Summit. It is an online virtual summit. Many different thought leaders in the space of online marketing and publicity coming together and breaking down how they do things. It's high impact, low cost, and comes with tons of freebies. So if you're serious about getting your stuff out there, if you're running a self-publishing business, or if you're an author who wants to boost your platform, because let's face it, even at the biggest companies in New York, a publicist is dealing with like 20 or 30 writers at a time, and they're not making more than those authors. They're doing a lot for not a lot of money. So they're doing what they can, and they will work with you on your publicity efforts and try to match what you're doing. Do you know what to do? If you don't, check out the Sales Growth Summit, which also 20% of the proceeds for that go to a clean water charity. So it's something you can feel good about. So those are all the publicity tools that I recommend for keeping your productivity from getting bogged down with all these other things while you're trying to compose new work quickly. It will all be covered again in the downloadable report. I do have some other extras for businesses. Pardon me. I mentioned earlier receiving an award earlier this year. Well, this year I received the Horror Writers Association Specialty Press Award, along with my partner in crime, co-founder of Raw Streaming Press, Jennifer Barnes. That was a great thing. And we impact tens of thousands of readers and fans. We've worked with hundreds of authors over our 16 years as book publishers, and also our 4 years running the Dream People Literary Journal. I've impacted hundreds of other professionals at workshops nationwide. I've launched the campaign to impact untold thousands of others more online with All Access. I've made thousands of dollars as a freelance editor working for other companies. I've even boosted my social media profile to the point where companies are approaching me to be an influencer. And you might have seen recently where I got paid to eat these pints of ice cream and post about it. Well, that's where I am currently on my path as a professional in the publishing industry. Is any of that something that you would like to be able to say? Is that what you would like to do as a professional? I'm just going to really quickly cover a few productivity things for other professionals in the industry or authors who are also working as editors, also working as publishers. Maybe you're doing self-publishing as a very serious company. You have a bunch of books out and you're trying to maintain your output as an author. Real quick, I recommend working with Ingram distribution. I know there are lots of different platforms for publishing. They've always been great and have gotten even better in recent years. The last two especially, really innovating the best print-on-demand technology that exists in the world today at this point in these last 2 years, upping their customer service level and launching a new initiative that is going to drop in early 2020, designed for really letting independent publishers leverage their dominance in the industry. Ingram is pretty much the biggest force in book distribution right now in North America. And they're doing all sorts of things to stay on top. They're innovating a lot of stuff in the digital arena that I don't want to talk about right now because they haven't launched it. But it's going to be really exciting when they do. And I think you should look at getting in on that. I will provide you with names for people to work with at this company if you want to, through Ingram Spark or Lightning Source or what have you. Also, Publish Drive, it's not just a distribution service. They do a lot of other things, providing a platform for distribution of review copies, an accounting platform for your works, getting your stuff into libraries and into online stores, and a whole bunch of other things. I think there are like 6 or 7 different services they're offering, some of which are free. I know their ebook conversion software is free. It's all an online cloud-based app. Publish Drive. If you've been at publishing events this year, you've probably seen them around on the event circuit. Good people, knowledgeable, so far, easy to work with. I recommend them. And again, I can provide a name of somebody to speak with. They'll be in the download along with links, all relevant links that you'll need to follow up. Had some mixed results with Fiverr. I recommend them for some things and not for others. I'll go into all that in the report. Mostly for publicity and book design services, they can be okay. And if you're looking for staying on top of cutting edge technology to make things easier, to automate your tasks, to do cool things that big companies are doing, but you maybe don't have the budget to do that, so you want some software to handle it for you, look at a place called AppSumo. That's where we are getting a lot of our stuff from. And I'll put all the information about AppSumo in there for you too. All right. So just wanted to run through that real quick for the people covering the business end of things. So that covers the approaches to productivity, techniques, productivity tools to keep you going during NaNoWriMo. If anybody has any questions in the chat, I welcome them at any point. We will have a Q&A session later also. Also forgot to point out, we do have a couple polls here in the chat area. If you check those out, that's just some background stuff that will help us get a feel for the audience, what your interests are, and that sort of thing, so we can provide the best experience possible. Now, what we're going to do is have, let's see, oh yes, a little background on what we're doing here, why we're doing it. So there was an event. It was a yearly event, and we ran it for a little while, 5 years. It's called DogCon. And do any of you remember DogCon? Were any of you participants there? It was something that started in 2012. As I touched on earlier, Jennifer and I, we run a company called Raw Dog Streaming Press. We have several other imprints. We have a nonfiction line called Guide Dog Books. We have a science fiction adventure line called Dog Star Books. And back in 2012, we were going to have our very first mini convention, a convention within a convention. And unfortunately, the convention that we were going to have our event in, after months of haggling with them and working everything out, hammering out the details, the hotel was sold at the last minute. And there was not enough time for the convention organizers to find a new place to hold their event because the hotel closed down like 2 weeks before the event was supposed to happen. I think for renovations and then to open as a new hotel or some other enterprise later. So we're like, okay, what are we going to do? Because we've been advertising, you know, talking about DogCon, it's coming, we're telling people about it. And we decided, well, you know, we'll just do something at home, right? We'll have all the authors we can come over to our place. We'll organize readings and we'll have, you know, food, and we'll have people coming in and joining us through the internet. And it'll be a great community building thing because, hey, if you have pictures of it and you post them online, then it really happened, right? So, so it started off as sort of this, you know, kind of bogus publicity thing, like, hey, it really did happen. Here are some pictures, but it turned into something that was really valuable. It had real content. It built some community, and there was way more interest online than we ever would have guessed. People who wanted tickets, they thought they could pay and come. And it was just some free things we were doing with the authors that we knew, like, you know, 24 authors and editors. So we were like, wow, okay, that went a lot better than expected. Maybe we should keep going with this. So we did DogCon 2 in Columbus, Ohio. That was great. Then we did DogCon 3 in Pittsburgh, DogCon 4 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And that was when it was starting to get big. And by that point, we had this championship wrestling belt for our People's Choice Award. We were doing a yearly award for the book that readers liked the best that we had published that year. And then finally, we had DogCon 5 here at Broadkill Beach in Delaware at the Broadkill Riders Resort. It was our first year, I think, having the Riders Resort open and in business. People were renting the place and coming in for workshops. And we had the last DogCon here at the beach. And it was great. Huge bunch of people that we worked with all came in. And one thing that we did every year was something called the State of the Dog. It was sort of a brief address letting people know, you know, what happened over the course of the year and what our goals were going into the next year. Because we're big on transparency. And I don't think you can do community building without transparency, right? So I think usually that was handled by Jennifer, but it just so happened on this year at the beach, I was the one giving the State of the Dog address. And it was broadcast online, as we liked to do, trying to reach as many people and include as many people as possible. So it's only 15 minutes long. I'm going to go ahead and broadcast that to you right now because it sort of lays the groundwork for why exactly we're doing all these things, why we have our publishing company, why we're doing the Broadkill Writers Resort, and most importantly of all, sort of the seeds for how our all access con concept came to be. All right. So if you'll stick around for this video, or if you need to, take a break, go get something to eat or whatever and come back. This is, I think, like I said, about a 15-minute video. And there's also the networking area over there if you want to hop over and talk to some folks there. So I am going to switch off here now and play the video. Just one moment.